you. It's another episode here on OrmsTV, and we are finally doing our first look on the Sony A1ii.
Yeah, so due to the nature of this camera, we figured obviously we got to do some sport, we got to do some action. So we went out shooting professional hydrofoil surfer Deon Wichmann. He was out in the waves, cracking some stuff.
Setting up his board, doing things.
Exactly, doing all of those cool kind of things. So we shot some video, we shot some stills. I'm going to show you guys what this camera is all about.
So naturally, we're going to talk about some specs on the A1ii. And if you're very familiar with the first gen, the A1, you'll see it's very close, very similar, but there are some key differences. Sensor. So we are working on a 50 megapixel stacked BSI CMOS sensor. We are able to shoot at 30 frames per second in stills, super fast as we expect from a flagship model. Now, what is quite unique on this model is the new AI CPU processor unit, which is going to help you a lot with crazy autofocus technology. It has many different autofocus modes that you can go into. And also we see in this unit, something we saw in the A9 III is the really cool pre-capture mode. Now this, again, being a flagship high-speed model, this is great for wildlife, sport guys doing very unpredictable shooting.
Yeah, and then in terms of the video specs, also relatively similar to what we had before. And it is essentially what you'd come to expect from any Sony flagship at the moment. So you've got 8K up to 30 frames per second, 4K 120, all of course 422 10-bit internal. You have S-Cinetone, S-Log 3, all the codecs that you would come to expect in this range. But what is quite nice and what's a very, very handy addition is of course the new stabilization system that they've employed. And that'll push it up to 8.5 stops stabilization with compatible lenses, which is pretty much class leading at the moment. Some really, really nice stuff. Then they've also made some changes in terms of the body on the unit. And probably the thing that you pick up first is the new grip. And of course, now you have that angled shutter button like we first saw on the A9 III. Makes it so much more comfortable to shoot with.
Yes, yeah. Also coming to the A1ii is that sort of interesting flippy screen, tilty screen sort of mechanism. I think that's going to be a sort of a yes and no to many people. You like it?
I love it.
I'm not a big fan of it. It feels a little bit clunky sometimes, but I do see that it sort of gives you the opportunity to shoot for both kind of users.
Absolutely. And then everything else is still very similar. So you still have that amazing bright high resolution viewfinder, pushing 120 Hertz refresh rate now, which is really nice to see. Obviously no blackout while you're shooting. Very, very cool tech. And again, pretty much what you expect from the Sony flagship.
So we decided to go to Muizenberg, Surfers Corner, and go shoot our friend Dylan doing some hydrofoiling in the waves. It's quite interesting, actually my first time sort of like experiencing it and shooting this as well.
Same here.
So yeah, it was quite cool, and it was sort of interesting. It was good light,
yep,
but it was really fast, and we got some really cool portraits as well. But the gear that we used was a couple of options. We used the 2470 2.8 GM2. We used that new fat lens as well, the 2870 f2. That's quite a little beast. And then for the long shots, we had a 400mm f2.8, but we did snap on a 2x converter because sometimes when he went sort of into the back line, it was definitely needed to have that extra bit of reach. We did shoot mostly handheld, but for the long lens, we used a monopod as well, every now and then.
Yeah, and I mean, just straight off the bat, you'll see from the footage that the stability was actually really, really solid.
Yeah.
Everything looks good, it tracks really well, stable as can be, like just a solid package all around. So just to kick off, talking about the video shooting on it. So like, you'll see we kind of shot him like putting the hydrofoil together, which again, something that I've never seen before. I had no idea that the thing has to be assembled.
Yeah.
And just in terms of the tracking capabilities that you now have within this camera is so far ahead of what you had in the A1 I that there is literally no comparison between the two. When this thing locks on, it knows what it's looking at. It knows there's a face or a hand or, some action happening within the frame due to that AI processing chip. It just stays so solid and it makes it so easy to shoot.
Yeah.
Just the easiest thing in the world.
I've also noticed when we were specifically shooting him in the waves, it was almost like the camera got used to sort of him knowing that he was the person that we are focusing on. Because many times, obviously, there's different surfers in the water, different people kind of walking in front or sort of in front of him. And the camera kind of just knew that, okay, we're focusing on Dylan and that is our subject. And it just kept tracking on him.
Yeah, the other thing that was quite interesting is, like, we've used this AI processing chip in other cameras before, but it's always been kind of like humans doing human things, you know, like walking, running, going like behind trees and that kind of thing. And part of the idea of this chip is that it's supposed to predict based on movement where you're going to be in the frame. And initially it kind of like struggled, you know, because now there's waves coming up and he's doing something very odd on a board. You know, it's like it's not a human motion really. But it feels like once the camera kind of figured out what we want to focus on and what's happening, that autofocus was just, it was stuck on so well. Whether he dipped behind a wave or, like you said, like somebody else comes in front of the frame, no problem whatsoever, kept locked. Did the body square, and if it could, it went face, eye, you know, the whole thing. Just so good. And I mean, that autofocus system is easily, like, I mean, if it isn't just better than Canon's one at the moment, it's so close. Like, they are fighting it out like it's no one's business. And we're benefiting at the end of the day.
When we think of the A1 it is seen as the flagship. So in our heads, that means the best at everything. Now we know Sony has their S range, really good low light, really good video. They've got their R range, really high megapixel stills, generally a little bit slow in terms of the speed. And this is where the A1 fills in all the gaps. Super high megapixel resolution, great for sort of any photographer's needs. You've got incredible fast autofocus, incredible fast frame rate, 30 frames per second, and couple that with the AI processor for incredible autofocus technology. It is literally the best hybrid in the market. It is the one hit nails everything on the head, really good video. It's, yeah, what can you say? It is the best.
Yeah, I mean, it is so evident. I mean, if you look at the pictures that we're showing on the screen, we did video with it, it looks phenomenal. We did these pictures, the portraits look epic, it's sharp, it's crisp, the details are there. You know, you punch in on the surfer's hair, all the details are there, punch in on the eye, everything is there. It is what you expect from a professional grade camera, and it does everything phenomenally well. It is what a pro needs. If you're investing this kind of money in a camera and the lenses that go around with it, this is what you expect.
So if you look at the market, where can you improve on the first generation A1? And there isn't many gaps to fill in that sort of camera. I mean, yes, let's push the speed a little bit. Let's improve the autofocus technology, and yes, let's introduce AI technology into the camera, because that's what's going to be sort of the next gen in most cameras, to be honest. So yeah, the specs from the version 1 isn't like double or triple or whatever, but you don't need it. You need to redefine the camera in certain ways that it's going to improve in such a way that it's still better than most of the competitors, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of second your thoughts on that. Like, I think that for me, it's not really a A1 II. It's like a A1.5 almost. They took the base of what the A1 was, took that same processor, that same sensor, which was already phenomenal, delivering excellent quality, excellent speed, excellent specs out of it, and they tweaked it a little bit. They just improved. Took that, added some tweaks to the body, and then of course added that AI processing unit. And the question is, like, is that enough to have a completely new version of the camera? Yes, no, probably not. But at the end of the day, is it still arguably the best flagship camera out there? And with the addition of that AI focusing chip, yeah, it is.
So that's our video on the Sony A1 II. If you liked the video, remember to subscribe and smash the like button. If you don't like the video, still smash the like button.
See you guys next time. Cheers.
and sort of go shoot that chromatic. To kind of test this camera, so to test, okay, cool.
Come on,
what did I say again?